It's the Content 10X podcast birthday. I can't believe that the podcast is 5 years already. The first episode went live on the 19th of October 2017, and so in this big birthday episode, I thought it would be good to share the 5 things that I've learned in 5 years of running a weekly podcast and blog. Whether you have a podcast or not, this will be super useful, I promise, so keep on listening. You're listening to the Content 10X podcast, where it's all about content repurposing. I'm Amy Woods, and I'm here to help you maximize your content and find smart ways to get your message in front of more of the right people, whilst also saving time. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Content 10X podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, the founder of Content 10X, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the 5 things that I've learned from 5 years of the Content 10X podcast. As I said in the intro, I can't believe it's been 5 years. In some aspects, it seems to have flown by, but then in other ways, 5 years does feel like a very long time ago, given everything that's happened in the world since 2017 as well. So firstly, I think this birthday episode presents the perfect opportunity to say some big thank yous to you, my wonderful Content 10X audience. So to those that are listening today for the first time, and to those that have been with us on the whole journey, and of course everyone in between, you are awesome, and I am extremely grateful to have you with me in the podcast episodes, listening along and joining me on this ride. So thank you very, very much. Myself and the Content 10X team put so much effort into producing quality content every single week. Like, honestly, you wouldn't believe how much we put into it. So we really hope to be adding value to your work, to your marketing, and hopefully to your life. And as I said, we appreciate all of your support. That's what keeps us going and keeps us working hard on the podcast. This milestone has also certainly given me an excuse to go out and buy a cake and put 5 candles on it. So that's exciting as well. So as I said, this podcast episode is going to be about the 5 things that I've learned from 5 years of running the Content 10X podcast. But it's not just going to be about podcasting. Never fear if you don't have a podcast. It's about content, consistency, and content creation overall. So I've made these tips transferable to blogs or videos or any other type of content that you create and you want to get consistent with. Now, before I get to the main content, just to mention that we have launched the Content 10X Repurposing Effectiveness Scorecard. So if you want to find out how your content repurposing strategy and efforts compare to others and get specific tips and advice on how to improve, then look no further than our scorecard. It's free, it's 21 quickfire questions, and it takes only around 3 minutes. So just head to content10x.com/scorecard and see how you get on. So I'm going to cover my top 5 lessons learned on this podcasting journey, which are: number 1, don't be afraid of consistency, but do commit to it. Number 2, be sure to change up your format when the time is right. Number 3, regularly review your equipment and tools. Number 4, remember it's a long game, but ensure short-term gains too. And number 5, invest. So invest in the content. Don't worry, that's not the episode done. Now let me explain each one. So, number 1, don't be afraid of consistency, but do commit to it. When I launched the Content 10X podcast, I was wondering whether to do it weekly or as a season, so like a 10, 15, 20 episode season. Initially, I was worried that if I went weekly, if I committed to weekly, I'd just run out of ideas. I was determined that it would be a niche podcast, so always about repurposing content and getting the most value from your content, not just a general marketing podcast, because there were way too many of those, but a niche podcast. So it was like a big question for me: can I really talk about content repurposing every week? But funnily enough, we're on episode 260. And I've got a bank of ideas that we haven't even pulled from yet. So the answer was yes. But as I said back then, the thought of 1 year of a weekly podcast was daunting. Would I really be able to come up with 52 ideas for episodes? Clearly I did, because we are here 5 years later. So the point is, if you know your stuff and you know your audience and you know that you can add value, commit to being consistent with whichever consistency suits you. A big benefit to this for you is that it forces you to learn. If you are creating original content, say every week, and you committed to that, then it's always keeping you on your toes and forcing you to get out there and learn, develop, and research. For more reasons on why I think it is just really good to commit to weekly, or whatever the consistency is, but episodic content, then check out episode 171 of the Content 10X podcast. It's called 7 Reasons Why You Should Create Episodic Content. It's a really good episode, and hopefully it will encourage you if you're thinking about this, thinking about ongoing regular content. Hopefully it will give you many reasons, in fact 7, why it could be a very good idea for you. So there you go anyway. Lesson number 1, don't be afraid of consistency, but do commit to it. So number 2 is don't be afraid to change your format. So when you've been doing things the same for a while, it can be quite daunting to change it up. In fact, it's quite a brave thing to do, and sometimes it's 100% necessary. Now, we've played around with different ideas over the years. We've done solo episodes, and then we've introduced guest episodes. We've had times where we alternated solo episode, guest episode, and changed that on a weekly basis. We now have guest episodes every month, and then the other episodes are solo. We had our It Started With Content series, which we ran through 2020, where we shared interesting stories of people who have started from humble beginnings with their content, and then that led to something far bigger than the creator could ever imagine. So for the year of 2020, 1 episode a month was part of this It Started With Content series, so we played around with that as a format. We've also had a video first approach, where all the solo episodes were video first, recorded on video, and then repurposed into podcast episodes. Now we're more of an audio first for the solo episodes, and then we have video that becomes audio content for our guest interviews. Now, the point is to keep evolving, but make sure that you stay true to your audience. We like to involve our audience in decisions on our content strategy, and we also look at data and insights that are available as well. So go and check out episode 219, actually, called Updating Your Content Strategy. I'll look at our 2022 content plan. Head to content10x.com/219 to hear more on that. It might sound a little bit dated looking at our 2022 content plan when it's nearly the end of the year. Well, not quite, but it's getting there. But it's more about letting you know the approach that we take to review our content, and the reasons that we make certain decisions, and the things that we do to come to that decision. And it's just really important to make sure that you keep your audience in mind and make sure you're always delivering value. But why not be brave? Take a step out of your comfort zone and do something different with the format and see how your audience responds. So number 2, don't be afraid to change your format. Number 3 is don't forget to review all your equipment and tools. Now, this might seem a bit obvious, but I do think it is important to mention. There are loads of tools of your trade, especially, as content creators. There's lots of different online tools and software and hardware and physical tools as well. So it's really key that you keep everything up to date and that you're using the best tools for the trade, or, the right tools for you in terms of what you're trying to achieve and budget and those kind of considerations. It's important to remember that things change, so stay in touch with what's out there and work out if it's worth it to make changes or upgrade from time to time. There could be things that exist that weren't there when you started creating your content, and they could optimize and improve your processes, so like different tools and software. I know there's the saying, if it's not broken, then don't fix it. But it's good to just stay open-minded and be aware of what's available, and just regularly review the infrastructure that surrounds your content, the tools that you use, and make sure that you're using the right ones, and keep an eye on new things that come out and work out whether it might be time to change things up a little bit. So that's number 3. Don't forget to review all your tools and your equipment. Then number 4 is to remember that it's a long game. So it's important to have plans to reap the benefits in the short and long term. It takes time to get traction from podcasts, videos, webinars, blog posts, possibly longer than you think at first, but it's so worth it because ultimately you are building trust and creating valuable content and building your authority. But that said, you need to look at how you can make the most of it in the short term and the long term. This is where repurposing jumps in to save the day. If you think about it this way, and this is something that I've talked about before, your longer form content generally satisfies your existing audience. So you are giving more to your audience that already know you and want more from you. And then your short form content generally is attracting a new audience. So make sure that your long form pieces are repurposed down to the shorter, snappier, engaging content to attract new audiences, and of course stay front of mind as well with people who already know you. So your longer content is playing the long game and being repurposed to help play the short game as well. So think about how you can repurpose content for new audiences and for quick bursts of brand awareness and social media content. Also consider how you can repurpose content across different stages of the marketing funnel. So turning that middle of funnel content into top and bottom of funnel content through repurposing. That's just one example. Maybe it's repurposing bottom of funnel content into top of funnel content and so on. I can help you further with this if you check out episode 208 of the Content 10X podcast. So it's called Content That Converts, how to repurpose your content for your marketing funnel. Head to content10x.com/208. There's lots of useful tips over there about repurposing for different stages of your marketing funnel. So that's number 4, is to remember it's a long game, but ensure short-term gains as well. The last lesson learned, number 5, is to invest. Firstly, it's important to see content for the investment that it is for your business. So you're creating content and you're building authority and you're building trust, which is the most important currency online these days. And through this investment, you're going to get sales and new clients and develop business opportunities. So as well as investing time in content, you may need to invest in the help that you need with the content creation and publishing and distribution too. The success that this podcast has seen over the past 5 years has been constantly underpinned by the support of my team. I'm really lucky because I run a content repurposing agency, I run a creative agency, so I have a wonderful team to help and support me, from the planning to the writing to the editing to the publishing and everything in between, and that has helped keep me consistent and keep quality levels to the standard that we want, that we're happy with. So remember that you don't need to do it all by yourself. Remember, when you get help with content, it's an investment, it's not a cost. Now, I promise this isn't just a plug for Content 10X, because the truth is, we might not be the right fit for you. We work with B2B businesses mainly in the tech and professional services space. Now, usually they have a marketing department, but don't have maybe the time to do the repurposing, or it's just not the right strategic focus for the team. Or they might have a small team and they want to focus on creating the core content and then outsource the repurposing. So they're the kind of clients that we work with. We might not be the right fit for you. If we are, of course, do get in touch, but you might find that you need to hire more people in-house, or maybe work with freelancers or different types of agencies. But the important point is, get the support you need, because being consistent is really important and valuable, and maintaining quality standards is also key. And this can all be really challenging if you aren't seeing content for what it is, an investment in your business, and therefore investing in your content. So to sum up, my 5 top lessons learned from over 5 years of running the Content 10X podcast are: number 1, don't be afraid of consistency, but do commit to it. Number 2, be sure to change up your format when the time is right. Number 3, regularly review your equipment and your tools. Number 4, remember it's a long game, but ensure short-term gains too. And number 5 is invest in the content. I really hope this has been super helpful to you no matter what type of content you create, whether that's a podcast or videos or blog posts or white papers. I hope this has been really, really useful. So that's it for this week's episode. However, before closing off, I just want to say a big thank you again to everyone who has supported us over the years. It's been an amazing journey, and well, here's to the next 5 and maybe the next 5 after that as well. If you enjoy the podcast, perhaps your birthday present to the show could be to leave a nice review on the podcast platform that you like to listen to it on. It would be really appreciated and mean the world to me and the team that work on the show every week. So if you could leave a review, we'd really, really appreciate it. As I mentioned, if you want some help with your content repurposing, we can help. We offer end-to-end repurposing services for podcasts and video content. Head to content10x.com to find out more about that. And be sure to follow us on social media as well. Just search at Content10x on all the social media platforms, or do connect with me, Amy Woods, on LinkedIn, and let me know that you listen to the podcast when you send your connection request. So all that's left to say is thank you so much for listening to this milestone 5th birthday episode of the podcast, and I'll catch you in the next episode.